my fiancée refused to sign a prenup. Then cheated days later, so I played dumb until the wedding, then canceled it and let her parents pay. I'm a 29-year-old guy, and for the longest time, I truly believed I had finally met the woman I was meant to spend my life with. Even now, as I sit here replaying everything, it's surreal how confidently I told my friends, "Mia is it for me." I remember that feeling so vividly. It was warm, hopeful, like the kind of certainty you only feel once in your life before reality teaches you better. We met at a mutual friend's engagement party. She walked in wearing this soft blue dress that somehow made the whole room feel quieter. Everyone gravitated toward her. She had that type of charm, like she'd been raised knowing the world bent slightly in her direction. Mia came from one of those families that had money in every generation, the kind where the parents look like they stepped out of a magazine and the house smells like imported candles. I was the opposite. Middle-class background, two hard-working parents, nothing flashy, nothing inherited. But Mia always laughed it off and held my hand a little tighter, saying, "It never mattered to me. I like you because you're dependable, different from the guys I grew up around." And God, I believed her. I believed every word. The beginning of our relationship felt like something out of a movie. Late-night drives, long conversations on her balcony, her telling me she'd never felt so safe with anyone. She made me feel chosen in a way I didn't know I needed. I ignored the tiny red flags, like how she always needed things her way, or how she'd get strangely tense whenever her mother asked too many questions about me. I brushed it all off because love makes you soften the edges of things you should sharpen instead. Back then, I thought those were small quirks. I had no idea how far she'd go to protect her comfort, or how far she'd go to destroy mine. I remember the day the word prenup first came into the picture. It wasn't dramatic or suspicious. It was just a calm suggestion from my lawyer after I mentioned the wedding planning was getting serious. "You've built your business from scratch," he reminded me. "Just protect what you've created." It made sense. I wasn't rich, but I'd worked too hard to risk everything on blind faith. I told myself Mia would understand. After all, she always said our love was stronger than money. That night, we were sitting on her couch, her legs draped over mine while we watched some reality show she loved. I gently said, "Hey, babe." My lawyer suggested something. "I think we should talk about a prenup." The moment the word left my mouth, her entire body stiffened like someone had poured ice water down her spine. "What did you say?" she whispered, her voice suddenly flat. "A prenup," I repeated softly. "Just to protect both of us. It's standard. Especially with a business standard?" Her voice snapped like a whip. "Do you think I'm marrying you for money? Is that what you think of me?" I felt my stomach drop. "No, Mia, that's not what I'm saying. It's just—" She shot up from the couch. "Unbelievable. You really don't trust me. After everything I've done for this relationship, you think I'd ever hurt you?" Her voice cracked like she was on the edge of tears, and instantly my instinct was to comfort her. I reached for her, but she jerked away like I'd burned her. "Maybe we shouldn't get married if you think I'm some kind of gold digger," she shouted before grabbing her purse and storming out of her apartment. I sat there alone, staring at the door she'd slammed behind her, my heart pounding in my chest. I kept telling myself she was just emotional, that maybe I brought it up poorly. But as minutes turned into hours with no call or text, a knot of unease tightened inside me. I didn't know it yet, but that night was the beginning of everything falling apart. The days after the prenup conversation felt different, like someone had quietly swapped the woman I loved with a version of her that looked the same, but didn't act the same. I kept trying to tell myself I was imagining it, that couples fight, that everything would stabilize. But Mia wasn't just upset. She was distant in a way I'd never seen before. She stopped initiating conversations about the wedding completely. Whenever I'd bring up venues or guest lists, she gave these clipped answers like, "We'll figure it out later," or "I'm not in the mood." At first, I thought she was still hurt, so I gave her space. But then she started going out more. Girls' nights, late dinners, work hangouts. Meanwhile, her phone became practically glued to her hand. If it buzzed, she'd tilt the screen away from me. If she walked into another room, the phone went with her. Before all this, she used to leave it lying around without a thought. One night, I gently said, "Mia, are we okay? You've been off lately." She rolled her eyes. "Please don't start with your insecurity again." "Insecurity?" I repeated quietly. "I'm just asking what's wrong." "What's wrong is you're treating me like a suspect," she snapped. "If you trusted me, you wouldn't be acting like this." Her words stung because they were the exact opposite of reality. I had never questioned her loyalty, not until she started acting like she had something to hide. Still, I apologized just to keep the peace. I didn't want another explosion like the prenup night. Then her parents started chiming in. Her mom sent me a text that said, "You need to stop upsetting Mia. She's been through enough." Her dad added, "You owe her reassurance, not demands." Demands. Asking if my fiancé was okay had apparently become a demand. That knot of unease inside me grew tighter every day. I tried to ignore it, but something in her eyes had shifted, something colder, more calculating. I couldn't name it yet, but I could feel it, and things were only going to get worse from here. The night everything shifted from uneasy to something is seriously wrong started like any other. She texted me around 8 p.m. saying, "Going out with the girls, don't wait up." That wasn't unusual. At least, it didn't used to be. But her tone had changed. There was no heart emoji, no playful energy, just coldness. I tried to focus on work, but hours dragged by, and that knot in my stomach kept tightening like someone was pulling it slowly, deliberately. By midnight, I sent her a simple message. "You good?" No response. At 1 a.m. "Are you coming home soon?" Still nothing. By 2 a.m., I wasn't even angry. I was worried. This wasn't like her. The Mia I knew used to call me if her Uber driver looked suspicious. Now she was ignoring me entirely. At 3:07 a.m., the apartment door clicked open. I turned toward the sound. She stumbled in wearing a dress that looked wrinkled. Her makeup was smudged around her eyes, her lipstick half faded. And her hair, the kind of messy that didn't come from dancing or the wind. It was the kind that came from hands that weren't hers. "Mia?" I said quietly. She froze, then looked at me like she didn't expect me to be awake. "Why are you staring at me like that?" she muttered, dropping her bag on the floor. "You didn't answer your phone," I said. I was worried. "I don't have to report to you every second," she snapped, brushing past me toward the bedroom. "I didn't say you did," I replied. "I just asked if you were okay." She turned, eyes sharp. "You're being controlling again. You're suffocating me." That word, controlling, hit me in a way that felt wrong. Manipulative. Like she was trying to guilt trip me for even caring. "I'm just asking what happened," I said softly. She let out a bitter laugh. "Nothing happened. God, you're impossible." Then she slammed the bathroom door, leaving me standing there alone, staring at the hallway she disappeared into. And as I sat on the couch, listening to the muffled sound of running water, something inside me whispered the truth I wasn't ready to face. Something was happening. Something she didn't want me to know. I swear I wasn't snooping. People always assume that when someone discovers cheating, they went looking for it. But the truth is, sometimes the evidence finds you. And that morning, it found me in the most accidental, gut-punching way possible. Mia had left her tablet on the coffee table. She rarely used it. It was mostly for browsing Pinterest or watching makeup tutorials. But when I walked past it, the screen lit up with a notification. Her messages had synced. I didn't mean to look. My eyes just caught the first line. "Last night was insane. I can still feel you." My heart dropped into my stomach. For a second, I stood perfectly still, convincing myself it was from one of her friends. Some joke, something harmless. But the sender's name popped up when another message followed. Lucas, work. That name hit me like a brick. Lucas, the coworker she'd mentioned casually once or twice, the funny guy who always brightened the office. I tapped the notification, and my entire world tilted. There they were, messages, photos, timestamps, conversations that stretched back weeks. Her telling him she missed him. Him telling her he couldn't believe she belonged to another man. Voice notes of her giggling in a way she hadn't done with me in months. I scrolled through message after message, each one cutting deeper. He bought the prenup thing. I think we're fine. Once the wedding is over, I'll figure things out. I deserve someone exciting, not just safe. My hands were shaking so badly I had to put the tablet down. It felt like someone had poured ice water through my veins. The apartment suddenly felt too quiet, too bright, too small. I couldn't breathe. And then I saw the message that broke me in a way I can't fully explain. He's so predictable. He'll never know. I sank onto the couch, staring at nothing. Every memory, every hug, every promise, every "I love you" started replaying with a new, sickening filter. But instead of confronting her right away, something unexpected happened. I felt a strange, spine-straightening calm, because right then, right there, I knew exactly what I was going to do. I don't know how to explain the shift that happened inside me after reading those messages. You'd think I'd scream, cry, break something, anything. But instead I went still, completely, unnervingly still. It was like my heart stepped aside and let a colder, sharper version of me take over. A version that didn't want answers or apologies. A version that wanted clarity. And maybe justice. When Mia walked through the door that evening, humming like she hadn't detonated our entire relationship, I felt that cold version of myself surface. She tossed her keys on the counter and said, "Hey, babe," as if everything was fine. As if Lucas's hands hadn't been on her just hours before. I swallowed the urge to confront her. Instead, I said, "Hey, love, I've been thinking. I'm sorry about the prenup. I shouldn't have brought it up like that." She blinked, surprised. Then her shoulders relaxed, and she gave this tiny smile, the kind people give when they think they've won a game you didn't know you were playing. "It's okay," she said softly, sliding her arms around my neck. "I just want us to trust each other." Trust. The word almost made me laugh, but I forced myself to nod. "You're right, I want us to move forward." Her eyes lit up like Christmas had come early. "So, no prenup?" "No prenup," I repeated. She kissed me then, slow, careful, calculated. I didn't kiss back with emotion. I mirrored her, matching her energy like an actor hitting his cues. She pulled away with a satisfied smile, the kind that said she believed everything was back under her control. "Good," she whispered. "You're doing the right thing." Doing the right thing. If only she knew. That night, while she showered and texted Lucas under the warm water, I opened a folder on my laptop, a new folder, one labeled for later. I started gathering screenshots, messages, photos, call logs. I time-stamped everything. I documented every detail. I wasn't going to confront her, not yet. No, I was going to let her keep walking toward the wedding she thought she wanted, without realizing she was walking straight into her own downfall. Once Mia believed the prenup was gone and I was back under control, her entire demeanor changed. It was subtle at first, lighter moods, fewer arguments, more affection. But underneath that sweetness was something else. Arrogance. Like she genuinely believed she'd outsmarted me. And because she thought I was clueless, she got sloppy. Her girls' nights suddenly multiplied. 2 nights a week became 4. The times she came home late went from rare to routine. And the way she floated through the apartment afterward, hair messy, perfume fading, cheeks flushed, was a different kind of obvious. The kind that whispered, "I didn't have to hide that well because you're not looking." One night, as she grabbed her purse, I said casually, "Another night out?" She barely glanced at me. "Yeah, we all need a break sometimes." "Sure," I replied, smiling gently. "Have fun." The way she paused, just half a second, told me she wasn't expecting that. She was expecting the paranoid fiancé she accused me of being. She wasn't expecting calm indifference, and that threw her off more than any confrontation would have. When the door closed behind her, I opened my laptop again. Screenshots, call logs, more messages. I added everything to the folder: dates, times, patterns, a meticulous digital map of betrayal. But the more evidence I gathered, the more I noticed something else. Her lies were following a pattern. Every time she texted Lucas, their messages aligned perfectly with her girls' nights. Every missing hour, every sudden change of plans, every excuse she fed me. I didn't ask questions, I didn't argue, I didn't hint at suspicion. Because the best way to expose a lie is to let the liar feel safe enough to keep telling it. And Mia was starting to feel very safe. Safe enough to get reckless. Safe enough to lose control of the narrative. Safe enough to keep digging the grave she didn't know she was standing in. If Mia's behavior had been exhausting before, the wedding planning phase took things to an entirely different level. Suddenly, she and her parents were on some kind of mission. Except the mission wasn't to celebrate our marriage. It was to create the most extravagant, overpriced, over-the-top wedding imaginable, and to make sure I looked like the grateful, compliant fiancé who wouldn't dare question the cost. It started with her mother calling me one morning. "We're thinking of booking the Rosewood Estate," she said. "It's only fair Mia gets the wedding she deserves." Only fair. The venue itself cost more than my car. When I hesitated, she added sharply, "You're marrying into a family with standards. It's important you understand that." I bit my tongue and replied, "Whatever makes Mia happy." She softened immediately, because compliance was what they were used to. After that, things escalated fast. Caterers who only accepted non-refundable deposits, decor companies requiring 80% payment up front, dresses, flowers, lighting specialists, all with invoices that could make a wealthy man sweat. Every time I mentioned a budget, Mia brushed it off with, "My parents are taking care of everything, don't worry." But I did worry, not for my wallet, for theirs. Because every contract her parents signed, every payment they made, every final invoice they proudly presented, none of it had my name on it. Not a single one. They refused to let me handle the messy financial stuff, insisting it was their gift to their daughter, and I let them. Oh, I let them. One afternoon, when Mia showed me the seating chart she'd designed without my input, she said, "See? Isn't it perfect?" All you have to do is show up." I smiled and said, "Exactly, I'll be there." Inside, I felt the plan tightening into place. Every flower petal, every overpriced bottle of champagne, every dollar spent was becoming part of the rope she didn't realize she was tying around her own story. And the more they spent, the closer we got to the moment they'd realize who was really paying the price. I thought I had already hit my emotional threshold. I thought the cheating messages were the worst gut punch I'd ever experience. But rock bottom has a funny way of introducing itself at the exact moment you think you've already met it. My bachelor party wasn't some wild Vegas trip, just a small gathering with my closest friends at a rooftop lounge. I wasn't in the mood to celebrate, but pretending was part of the plan. Everyone was drinking, laughing, talking about wedding day chaos. I forced a smile through all of it. Then Mia's bridesmaid, Kayla, showed up. She wasn't supposed to be there. She walked straight past everyone else and came to me, eyes red, clutching her phone like it was burning her hand. When she said my name, her voice cracked. "Can we talk? Alone?" We stepped aside to a quiet corner, and she immediately burst into tears. "I can't do this anymore," she said. "I can't watch you walk into this blind." My stomach twisted. "Kayla, what are you talking about?" She looked at me with this heartbreaking mixture of guilt and pity. "Mia's been cheating on you with Lucas for months." Hearing it from someone else, someone who was supposed to stand beside her at the altar, hit differently, like someone had slammed the truth into my chest with full force. "I know," I whispered. She blinked. "You know." I nodded slowly. I found the messages. Kayla covered her face. "It's worse than you think." She bragged about it. She said she was going to marry you and figure things out later. We told her it was wrong, but she wouldn't stop. "We?" I asked quietly. She hesitated. Most of the bridesmaids knew. That sentence almost took me to my knees. The room felt smaller. My breathing got shallow. For a moment, I genuinely thought I might pass out. It wasn't just Mia betraying me. There was a whole circle of people watching it happen, doing nothing. That was the moment I hit my true rock bottom. The moment the weight of everything crushed me completely. And yet, even then, the plan didn't waver. I thanked Kayla for telling me, wiped my face, and walked back to the table. Because now I knew exactly how far this betrayal went. And I also knew the explosion I was planning would hit even harder than I originally thought. The week before the wedding felt unreal, like I was moving through someone else's life in someone else's body. Everything looked normal from the outside. The venue was set. The tuxedo was tailored. Guests were flying in. Mia was glowing in that practiced, picture-perfect way she always used when she wanted to look like the flawless bride-to-be. But inside me, there was nothing but a quiet, controlled storm. She kept acting extra loving, almost overly affectionate, kissing my cheek in the kitchen, hugging me from behind, whispering, "I can't wait to be your wife." It wasn't sweetness, it wasn't love, it was ownership. She thought she'd secured her future, her comfort, her dependable husband. Every time she touched me, I had to fight the urge to recoil. While she planned her manicure appointments and dress fittings, I was planning something entirely different. I sat in my office each night compiling every screenshot, every message thread, every time-stamped photo. I sorted them into a neat digital folder labeled simply Wedding Day. My lawyer called after reviewing everything. "This is airtight," he said. "If you walk away, she gets nothing. If you confront her before the wedding, she'll manipulate the narrative. Choose your timing carefully." I already had. Mia, completely oblivious, walked around humming wedding songs while I drafted a letter that would destroy the fantasy world she'd built. A letter that explained everything I knew, everything she had done, everything she thought she hid. One evening, while she was doing a facial mask in the bathroom, she called out, "Babe, do you think we should upgrade the champagne for the reception?" I stared at my laptop, at her messages with Lucas still glowing on the screen. "Yeah," I said calmly. "Whatever makes you happy." She laughed lightly. "Good answer." The irony wasn't lost on me. By the time wedding week arrived, everything was in place, every document saved, every backup secured, every detail aligned. All I had to do now was wait for the perfect moment to pull the pin. And it was coming faster than she could ever imagine. The rehearsal dinner felt like walking through a theater production where everyone else knew their lines except me. And yet, I was the only one who understood the ending. The restaurant was beautifully decorated, candles on every table, Mia glowing in an ivory dress that made her look angelic, fake angelic. Her parents floated around greeting guests like royalty, bragging about every expensive detail they had paid for. Mia slipped her arm through mine and whispered, "Smile, okay? Everyone's watching." I smiled, but it wasn't for her. It was for the moment I knew was coming. During dinner, her father stood up to give a toast. "We are so proud," he said, placing a hand on my shoulder, and relieved that our future son-in-law finally realized trust is more important than legal documents. Everyone laughed politely. Trust, if only they knew. Mia followed with her own speech, her voice soft and emotional. "I just want to say, love means choosing each other every day, even when things get hard." She looked straight at me. "Thank you for choosing us. Us, not her, us." She meant the entire family, the influence, the lifestyle, the security she felt entitled to. I raised my glass and nodded, playing my part. But inside, something twisted. Not sadness, not anger, something colder. A final confirmation of exactly who she was. After the applause died down, Mia excused herself to freshen up. I watched her walk out of the dining room, and then I watched through the glass wall as she stepped into a dim hallway, pulled out her phone, and texted someone with a soft smile. I didn't need to see the name. The way her shoulders relaxed told me everything. She still thought she was in control. She still thought tomorrow would be her perfect day. I checked my pocket, feeling the weight of the sealed envelopes I had prepared for the next morning. Everything was ready. And tomorrow, the truth would finally take the stage. The morning of the wedding didn't feel real. You'd think I'd be nervous, or heartbroken, or furious. But instead, I woke up with this strange, calm clarity. Like my body finally caught up to what my mind had been planning for weeks. The sun was coming through the curtains. The room smelled like the detergent Mia's mom insisted we use for pre-wedding energy. And yet, it all felt like the quiet before a massive storm. Mia texted me early, "Good morning, future husband, today is our day." I stared at the message for a long second before typing back, "Can't wait." She sent a flurry of heart emojis, completely unaware of what I was preparing. I showered, shaved, dressed slowly, every movement deliberate. Then I took out the small stack of white envelopes I had sealed the night before. Each one had a name written in neat handwriting. Mia, her parents, the officiant, her maid of honor, and 2 more for key family members who needed to know the truth. Inside each envelope was printed evidence. Screenshots, dates, messages, photos. No explanations, no opinions. Just the truth she had created. At 10 a.m., 2 of my closest friends arrived at my apartment. They thought they were picking me up for the venue, and technically they were, but I handed them each 3 envelopes. "Bro, what is this?" one asked, confused. "Deliver these right before the ceremony," I said quietly. "Don't open them, don't explain anything, just hand them out." They stared at me. "Are you sure?" I nodded. 100%. They exchanged a look, part concern, part respect, before tucking the envelopes safely into their jackets. As we drove toward the venue, I looked out the window at the passing streets, the florist trucks, the fancy cars of early guests, the massive banners with our names on them that Mia's mother insisted on. Everything was set. Everything was perfectly arranged. Everything was about to implode. And Mia, she had no idea her fairy tale wedding was about to turn into the most public reckoning of her life. The venue looked like something out of a magazine. White roses everywhere, gold-trimmed chairs, a string quartet warming up near the altar. Guests filled the seats, whispering about how beautiful Mia looked, how perfect the day was, how lucky I was. If they only knew. My friends walked ahead toward the entrance, but I stayed in the car with the engine running. My heart wasn't racing. My palms weren't sweating. I felt weightless, like I'd finally set down something I'd been carrying for far too long. I checked the time, 11:58 a.m. The ceremony was supposed to start at noon. Right on cue, my phone buzzed. A text from the wedding coordinator. "Where are you? We're about to begin." I typed back 2 words. "I'm not." Then I put my phone face down on the passenger seat. Inside the venue, Mia was standing at the altar, bouquet in hand, practically glowing. She had no idea the shift that was about to hit her life like a freight train. Guests were settling in. Her father was straightening his tie. The officiant was flipping through papers. Then my friends began distributing the envelopes. 1 to Mia, 1 to her father, 1 to her mother, 1 to her maid of honor, 1 to the officiant, 1 to her aunt, 1 to the videographer who needed to stop filming before things got ugly. At first, confusion. Light murmuring. People opening envelopes expecting heartfelt letters, only to see printed screenshots. Then, silence. A suffocating, heavy silence as the truth rippled through the crowd like a shockwave. Mia opened her envelope last. I wasn't there, but my friend told me exactly how it went later. She smiled at first, probably expecting some cheesy romantic message from me. Then her face froze. Her eyes widened. Her knees buckled. She dropped the envelope, papers scattering across the aisle like broken pieces of her carefully curated life. Because staring up at her from the floor were her own messages, her words, her betrayal, sentences she had typed so confidently, so arrogantly. "He'll never know. He's predictable. Once the wedding is done, I'll figure things out." The venue erupted. Gasps, whispering. People standing, pointing, backing away. Her mother clutched her chest. Her father turned beet red. And Mia realized I wasn't coming. While the venue descended into chaos, I was sitting in my car down the street, watching people spill out of the entrance in confused clusters. Even from a distance, I could sense the panic spreading. My phone, previously silent, began vibrating nonstop. Calls, texts, voicemails, all from Mia, her mother, her father. I didn't answer a single one. Later, my friend who stayed behind filled in the details. The moment Mia realized I wasn't coming, she ran to the coordinator screaming, "Call him! Call him right now!" Her voice echoed through the hall, more desperate than angry. The coordinator tried, but obviously I didn't pick up. Her father opened his envelope a second time, double-checking the timestamps, the messages, the photos. "Is this some kind of joke?" he demanded, his voice trembling. Not from concern for his daughter, but from humiliation. the vendors approached him one by one. "Sir, since you're the signer on the contract, we'll need the remaining balance today." "Sir, the alcohol order is non-refundable." "Sir, the cancellation still requires full payment." Each "sir" was another dagger. Apparently he tried arguing, claiming there had to be a mistake, that the groom would still show. But the vendors didn't care about his pride, only their invoices. Mia's mother pulled him aside, whispering urgently, "Just pay it. We'll deal with her later." Meanwhile, Mia had collapsed onto a chair, mascara running down her face, gripping her phone with shaking hands as she tried calling me over and over. Guests avoided her like she was contagious. Some whispered, some stared. Some didn't even pretend to hide their shock. Her perfect wedding, her fairy tale, her masterpiece, had evaporated in minutes. And her parents, the same parents who called the prenup insulting, they were now staring at tens of thousands of dollars evaporating into thin air. My friend stepped outside and called me. "Dude, it's biblical in there. You did it." I exhaled deeply, not from relief, but from the weight of justice finally landing where it belonged. And inside that venue, Mia finally stopped dialing my number and started realizing the real consequences were only just beginning. The hours after the implosion felt strangely quiet. I went home, changed out of my suit, and sat on my couch with the windows open, letting the breeze wash over me. My phone was still lighting up non-stop, calls from numbers I didn't recognize, messages spilling in faster than I could swipe them away. But I didn't answer a single one. For the first time in weeks, maybe months, I felt calm. By evening, her messages shifted from rage to desperation. "Please, just talk to me. We can fix this. It wasn't what it looked like. I need you, please." I blocked her. I didn't block her out of spite. I blocked her because she no longer had access to the version of me who once would have forgiven anything. That man was gone. A day later, Lucas jumped in. "Hey man, can we talk? I didn't know she was still with you like that." I laughed, out loud, then blocked him too. But the real unraveling happened on Mia's end. According to Kayla and a few mutual friends, Lucas dumped her almost immediately after the wedding disaster. He didn't want to be associated with a public scandal. He ghosted her completely. Her parents, humiliated in front of their entire social circle, turned on her too, calling her reckless, selfish, stupid. They blamed her for everything. They cut her off financially for the first time in her life. She moved out of her luxury apartment and had to stay with an aunt who didn't want drama under her roof, meaning she wasn't allowed to cry loudly or bring friends over. Her perfect Instagram influencer persona took a hit. People unfollowed her in droves once screenshots started circulating in whispers online. Meanwhile, my life started healing. I spent time with friends. I went back to running my business. I slept without clenching my jaw. I woke up without anxiety sitting on my chest. Every day felt a little lighter, a little clearer. And for the first time since this whole nightmare began, I could look in the mirror and recognize myself again. She lost everything she thought she controlled. I finally got back everything I didn't realize I'd been losing. In the quiet days that followed, something unexpected happened. I didn't feel angry anymore. I didn't feel victorious either. What I felt was free, like I'd walked out of a burning building without realizing how long I'd been choking on the smoke. Every morning I woke up, stretched, and just breathed. Deep, easy breaths that didn't feel heavy or monitored or judged. And with each passing day, the version of me who once needed Mia's approval faded a little more. One evening, I sat on my balcony with a cup of coffee, watching the city lights blink on one by one. For the first time, I let myself think about everything without bitterness. How I met her, how I fell for her, how I ignored the warnings, how love turned into obligation, how obligation turned into control, and how control, when placed in the wrong hands, becomes a cage. I whispered to myself, "You didn't lose her. You avoided her." That sentence settled into my bones. If I had married her, I would have spent years walking on eggshells, years apologizing for things I didn't do, years trying to prove my love to someone who never believed in it unless it benefited her. Her refusal of the prenup wasn't about trust, it was about power. The cheating wasn't about passion, it was about entitlement. The lies weren't about fear, they were about convenience. One night, my mom came over with homemade food. She sat next to me on the couch, squeezed my hand, and said, "I'm proud of you. Not for walking away, but for choosing yourself." I didn't realize how much I needed to hear that until tears stung my eyes. The truth is, the wedding didn't fall apart. It never should have happened in the first place. Mia showed me exactly who she was, and for once in my life, I listened. I stopped trying to fix what was never mine to fix. I stopped trying to love someone who only loved what I provided. And as I closed that chapter, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Hope. Not for love, not for revenge, but for myself. For the life I finally reclaimed. And the peace I finally earned.